3 years ago, my father retired as CEO of the research technician he founded. For nearly 7 years, he had assured me, a 27-year-old man, that I would succeed him as CEO. However, during his retirement party, which I had organized, he unexpectedly named my brother-in-law, William, as his successor. This announcement blindsided me, especially since I had dedicated 7 years to the company, whereas William had only been involved for about a year. William, 29, had been a part of our family for nearly 7 years, being married to my sister for 3 of them. While I recognized William's contributions and character, I was devastated by my father's decision and felt it deeply unfair. When I confronted my father privately, he explained his decision by stating that William exhibited more of the leadership qualities he valued than I did. He believed William would better serve the company's future. The reason my father considered me a disappointment stemmed from his perceptions of my mental toughness. A few months before his retirement, during a family dinner, I had inadvertently revealed my struggle with general anxiety disorder by dropping my prescribed anti-anxiety medication. Although my mother was understanding, my father was not supportive. He views mental strength as paramount and began to doubt my capabilities as a leader due to my condition. Despite my assurances that my anxiety had never compromised my work performance, my father accused me of using my diagnosis as an excuse and relying too much on medication. Following much reflection, he concluded that William was the better choice for CEO, believing he possessed the resilience and qualities similar to his own, which he found lacking in me. This decision, and his explanation for it, profoundly affected my respect for him and altered our relationship. He told me I was free to leave the company if I wished, but his lack of trust in my ability to lead it, as he had, was clear. He doubted my strength, unwilling to pass the reins to me despite earlier implications that I would be the next CEO. This realization struck me hard at his retirement party, prompting me to leave early and sever ties with my father. The pain of that night lingered. He chose to appoint someone else as CEO, a decision influenced perhaps by his perception of my anxiety as a weakness. In response, I resigned and soon after began a new job. The familial bonds frayed further when my sister accused me of attacking her personally by resigning in anger over the CEO decision, leading to a fallout between us. For the past 4 years, communication with my family has been minimal. I occasionally speak with my mother, who meets with me once a month, urging reconciliation with my father, but I remain uninterested. Recently, she frantically informed me that the new CEO had been arrested for tax fraud, implicating my father due to his association with the company. She pressed me to reconnect with my father, possibly to testify on his behalf, but I firmly declined. The risk of entanglement in a fraud investigation, possibly extending to other executives, was too great. I made it clear to my mother that I would not involve myself in the situation, arguing that if my father truly needed my help, he should reach out himself. The distance I've maintained from the company's turmoil, I believe, is for the best. My mother accused me of being childish and insisted that I should talk to my father to mend fences, emphasizing the family's need to unite during tough times. I found her demands unreasonable and stood firm on my decision not to reach out to him, which upset her further. She called me selfish and heartless, criticizing me for clinging to past grievances. I felt her comments were harsh, especially since she would likely struggle to forgive in my position after being overlooked for a CEO position I had dedicated 7 years to earn due to reasons beyond my control. It seemed unjust to expect forgiveness when my father hadn't even acknowledged his actions. Our conversation devolved into an argument where I bitterly mentioned that the troubles befalling him and the newly appointed CEO, William, were karma for how they had treated me. After a tense silence, my mother hung up, and later I discovered she had blocked me. Feeling isolated and regretful about my harsh words, I contemplated calling her back, but realized she had made it impossible. It's been a week since she blocked me, leaving me cut off not only from her but from any familial support. While my friends have been supportive, losing the last familial connection has been tough. Despite the fallout, I maintain that I wasn't wrong to express that the situation might be a consequence of their actions. My anxiety disorder, which my father faulted for my supposed inadequacies, doesn't hinder my leadership or work capabilities. His words at the retirement party left a deep mark on me, shaping my feelings and actions to this day. For the last 3 years, my father's outdated views on mental health severely impacted my self-esteem. It left me questioning every decision I made and feeling like an imposter at my new job. It took a considerable amount of time and therapy to begin addressing these unresolved issues. Despite these challenges, my performance at work remained unaffected, and I'm even being considered for a promotion. I believe my father made a significant mistake, and it's disappointing that my mother can't see that. She seems more interested in defending him than acknowledging the hurt caused to me. I've made it clear that I won't make the first move towards reconciliation. They need to genuinely apologize for their actions before I consider re-engaging with the family. Recently, my sister visited, visibly distraught over her husband's legal troubles involving a federal crime. Despite the tension, I couldn't turn her away and tried to offer emotional support. She was unaware of the issues until they escalated and expressed a desperate hope that I could use my workplace connections to help. She even mentioned that my boss's spouse is a court reporter and suggested I could leverage this relationship to aid her husband, offering to pay for any assistance. I found her request inappropriate and firmly declined. I explained that I could not involve my employers or their connections in such matters, nor did I want to compromise my professional standing or my moral principles. I had hoped she visited for emotional support, not to seek such a favor, and her request made it clear that our values were profoundly misaligned. When my sister approached me for help regarding William's tax fraud situation, I made it clear that while I harbored no personal animosity towards him, getting involved in any legal manipulations was out of the question. My decision was purely practical. I didn't want to risk being entangled in a scenario that could potentially jeopardize my own position. I was open to offering emotional support, but that was the extent of it. Despite this, my sister took my refusal hard. She accused me of holding a grudge against her husband over past events, specifically him taking the company position I had hoped for. I tried to clarify that my feelings were more about the situation itself than personal resentment towards William. Indeed, I might have felt a slight resentment, but it wasn't a grudge. William, in my view, wasn't significant enough to warrant such feelings. Unfortunately, my attempts at explanation fell on deaf ears. My sister accused me of being petty and selfish, echoing sentiments that our mother apparently shared. This led to a heated argument, and I asked her to leave my home. It was especially frustrating because, throughout my own challenges, she hadn't offered me the support I was willing to extend to her. Her actions seemed to echo a long pattern of taking personal digs at me whenever things didn't go her way. The argument escalated quickly, with both of us raising our voices until we were shouting over each other, unable to even understand what the other was saying. Eventually, she left, but the confrontation left me deeply upset. Reflecting on the situation, I felt a profound regret for maintaining contact with my family over the past 3 years, wishing I had distanced myself sooner. This ongoing turmoil with my family made me question the sincerity of the relationships we had. It seemed that the support I thought I had from my mother might have been superficial. The realization that I had possibly wasted years trying to maintain a connection that was ultimately detrimental was painful, reinforcing the notion that distancing myself might have been the better choice from the start. Even after my sister's hysterical behavior and the exhausting fallout, I find it incredibly hard to completely sever ties with my family. Memories of our childhood bond tug at my heart, making it all the more painful to think about our current strained relationships. It's disheartening, and I often wish it could all just be resolved. 4 days passed in silence after my sister's dramatic visit, which left me thinking perhaps they'd finally decided to leave me alone. However, today, my parents showed up unexpectedly. I was determined not to make the same mistake as I did with my sister, so I initially refused to let them in. I told them through the door that I saw no point in rehashing old arguments or wasting more time. Surprisingly, my father wasn't there to ask for help but to apologize. He admitted he had made significant mistakes, and although he knew his apology couldn't undo the past, he wanted to express his remorse. This apology caught me off guard. I hadn't expected him to acknowledge his actions, especially since the last time we spoke was the night he openly called me a disappointment at his retirement party. I listened as he apologized, and while I was thankful for his effort, I explained that forgiveness wasn't something I could easily offer. The pain from the past 3 years, coupled with his prolonged silence, couldn't be simply erased by his sudden acknowledgement of guilt. I told him I needed time to process everything and that I couldn't guarantee forgiveness. It's not just the initial betrayal that hurt, but also the prolonged period it took for him to recognize and address his wrongdoings. As he finished his apology, I braced myself for anger or an outburst, but instead, he expressed his willingness to give me all the time I needed, accepting that I might never want to rebuild our relationship. This moment was a significant turning point, revealing the complexities of family dynamics and the slow, often painful journey towards potential reconciliation. Even with his readiness to wait, the deep scars of the past made it clear that any path forward would be fraught with challenges. As we stood outside my door, my father shared a revelation about the past 3 years. He admitted that the decision he made was not just a mistake, but a deeply misguided one, influenced by outdated notions of mental toughness passed down from his father. He confessed that the men in his family were taught to see emotional struggles like anxiety as signs of weakness, excuses for not meeting life's demands. When he discovered I was taking anti-anxiety medication, his fear of the business failing clouded his judgment, leading him to doubt my capability to lead. He told me that after our fallout, he harbored resentment towards me, but eventually began to question his beliefs. As he learned more about anxiety, he even recognized some symptoms in himself. He had been contemplating reaching out to make amends when the scandal with William erupted, delaying his plans. Hearing all this left me feeling conflicted. While his apology didn't erase the pain of the past 3 years, it was a step toward understanding. I'm not ready to forgive him yet, and I'm still processing whether his remorse is genuine, but I'm open to considering reconciliation. I asked him to return home, saying I'd reach out if and when I was ready. He respected my wishes and left. During our conversation, my mother also apologized for her part in the misunderstandings and quick judgments she had made. She mentioned she had spoken to my sister, who she said also regretted her actions and wanted to apologize on her behalf. However, I felt that if my sister truly wanted to apologize, she should do it herself. Her current situation with William, while stressful, doesn't excuse her past behavior towards me. Now, most of my family has offered apologies, leaving me with a lot to ponder. This unexpected wave of contrition from my family is a lot to take in, and I need time to decide how or if I want to move forward with each of them. Deciding whether to accept my family's apologies has been one of the toughest choices I've faced. For 3 years, I lived without any real contact with them, except for my mother, and even our relationship has been strained. On one hand, I'm tempted to forgive and move past everything, eager to stop the constant replay of hurtful events in my mind. I don't want to be held back by lingering resentment. On the other hand, I'm unsure if forgiving them is the right decision, or if it merely allows them to escape accountability. The complexity of my feelings is compounded by my deep-seated longing for family connections. Despite everything, I miss them terribly, which only adds to my confusion. I've made it clear that I won't assist them with their current troubles, standing firm on my principles. This stance isn't about whether they expect my help, it's about maintaining my integrity. I've decided to take some time to think it over. After all, if their apologies are genuine and not just a desperate attempt to draw me back in during a crisis, it could mean starting to mend our fractured relationships might be possible. Fast forward to 4 months later, I've been busy with new developments in my life. Eventually, my sister, having dealt with her own issues with William, apologized in person. I gave her the same response I gave our parents. I would consider reconciliation, but it would be on my terms. After much thought, I agreed to slowly rebuild our relationship, starting with monthly dinners. The first dinner was awkward, but their efforts to amend our bond were evident. My father even offered me the CEO position at the family business, which I declined for now. I need more time to decide if I want to take on such a responsibility. Amidst all this, there's been a bright spot. I've started dating a longtime friend. She's actually the one who encouraged me to give my family a second chance. Our relationship has brought a lot of joy and new energy into my life, helping me balance the ongoing family dynamics with personal happiness. So far, things are looking up, and I'm content with where I am.